The Washington Post, MSNBC Online, Reader's Digest, the Boston Globe, Health Leaders Media, ED Management, and multiple other nursing publications. Some of the topics I have been interviewed on include workplace violence, emergency department crowding, nurse-initiated protocols, what to expect when visiting an emergency department, care of the psychiatric patient in the emergency department, and even basic first aid. Fitting interviews into my daily work life has been very challenging, as there usually is a very tight turnaround time and little advance notice. However, I have always made it a priority to do an interview whenever the opportunity arises. Every time I am interviewed, it allows me to give a voice to the challenges, the frustrations, and the rewards that we all face daily as emergency nurses, and I know that this voice will be heard by many. I have met in person or via teleconference with numerous professional organizations and government agencies, including, but not limited to, these are just the ones I could think of, the Joint Commission, CMS, SAMHSA, which is the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Agency, ACEP, AAEM, which is the American Academy of Emergency Medicine, the American Nurses Association, the Nursing Organization Alliance, and the National Quality Forum. And again, I have met and worked with these organizations and these agencies to advance the profession of emergency nursing and to hopefully find ways to make your job easier and the care we provide our patients safer. Much of the work I have accomplished this year has been done through the use of technology, so let me tell you a little bit about that. Conference calls, they are a regular occurrence, and not uncommonly I will have multiple calls in a week or even a day. Then there is the email, and I have to tell you, I never thought I would be one of those persons with a BlackBerry thumb and my nose on the BlackBerry constantly, but I am. And the BlackBerry has truly been a lifesaver for me this year. I think yesterday some of you saw me walking to the bathroom, texting a message on my BlackBerry, but that's what it takes sometimes. So some days it seems like I respond to about 1 million emails, and I know it still baffles my husband that I receive emails at all hours of the day and night. But I have assured him that emergency nurses never sleep. And let me not forget the President's messages that are required for the Gen. I think truly that this has probably been one of the most intimidating and challenging things that I've had to do this year. I mean, after all, what do you say to 35,000 emergency nurses across this country and around the world? I have truly enjoyed my time as President, and you cannot do all that I have done this year and not walk away with a few unique memories. And I wanted to just briefly share with you a few of my unique memories. First, my year started out going to Mexico, and I had a great time in Mexico. I was representing the Emergency Nurses Association at an international emergency nursing conference, and it was going fabulous. And one night, towards the end of the conference, I went down, I met a colleague, we were sitting down in the bar, and I was having a glass of wine, and I went back to my room and realized that I had kind of been robbed while I was enjoying my glass of wine. So my hotel room had been broken into, and all my electronics had been taken. And so this was very distressing to me. But to make the long story short, you know, they called security, it's the middle of the night, everybody comes to my hotel room, they take reports, blah, blah, all that good stuff goes on. Do you want to file a police report? Well, no, if you tell me the insurance company is going to pay for it, that's fine, we don't need to do that. So the next morning when I'm supposed to leave, I go down to talk to the hotel manager, and he tells me, oh, no, you have to file a police report. And I'm thinking, I really don't want to go to the police department in Mexico, you know. So they load me in a van, and at this time it's about 2 hours before my flight leaves to go home. They load me in a van with my luggage with this gentleman who doesn't speak much English, and he drives very frantically through the streets of Chihuahua, Mexico to get me to the police station, where I walk in and it is packed, and there are 1 million people there, and me, I'm the only blonde-haired American that walks in, very obvious, and I'm in a rush, and he graciously gets me on the list, gets me moved ahead of everybody. I get taken to the back where there's this very nice woman there, and she needs to type my police report, which she speaks Spanish and I speak English. So we have to do this through an interpreter. Anyways, I did finally make it to the airport 10 minutes before my flight departed. But I got on the plane and I got back onto into the United States, which was really great. But so my first memory in my memory book is an official Spanish Mexican police report, which I cannot read, but I've got it to prove that it really happened. The next memory was my trip to Canada, and I do have to tell you, our colleagues in Canada, that they do a very fine conference, and I had a wonderful time over there. It was just fabulous. I went there in May to Banff, and that's up in the Canadian Rockies. I arrived on the day that they had a really horrific snowstorm. To me, it looked like a blizzard, but living in Southern California, it doesn't take much to create that impression for me. But it really, truly did snow really hard. That first night, a group of them were going, oh, we have these natural hot springs. You've got to go to the natural hot springs. And I'm like, well, you know, I kind of didn't bring a bathing suit. And they said, oh, don't worry, they rent them. And I was like, I don't know about wearing a rented bathing suit. But I stand before you today to tell you I am indeed a risk taker. I went to those hot springs. I rented a bathing suit, and I sat in the natural hot springs while it snowed, and it was truly a wonderful time. So I thank our Canadian friends for entertaining me and making me challenge myself. Then we did, Bill and I had the honor of going to the ENA House of Delegates in Washington, D.C. and representing all of you and our organization there. And there we were sitting in the very front row, and who walks out on the stage but Hillary Clinton. And so I actually had the opportunity, as Bill and I did, to hear Hillary Clinton speak and address the House of Delegates there. And for me, that was the first time I've ever seen, you know, a politician in person and up close. So it was quite an experience. Then finally, there was my trip to Missouri. Now, Missouri is a fine place, and I had a fine time once I finally got there, but I really was having some serious doubts whether or not I would ever make it there. We took off, and we're flying. I'm in the plane, and all of a sudden, there's this rather odd noise, and I fly a lot between work and ENA. It seems like I'm always on a plane, but there's this noise that kind of sounds really different, and the guy sitting next to me, he looks at me, and he says, "That wasn't normal." And I said, well, it didn't sound quite normal. And then, you know, the plane got a little quiet, and then he's sitting there next to me, and he's like, "Do you hear that?" And I'm like, well, maybe I hear something that sounds different. I don't know. So about that time, the pilot comes on and assures us that everything's okay. We've just lost the air compressor to our right engine. But he descended rather quickly, a couple thousand feet or so, I think, and was going to try to restart the engine, which he was able to do. And he thought that we would be fine flying into St. Louis, so we were going to just go all the way into St. Louis where we were intended to go. But, by the way, we are going to make an emergency landing just in case there's any problems with the engine. So I did have my first emergency landing, but I do have to say it was the smoothest landing I've ever had. I think my heart was creating more tremor and movement than the actual plane touching down. So I did have an emergency landing. All the emergency vehicles came up and, you know, surrounded the plane and made sure we weren't on fire, which luckily we were not. So I have had a few rather unique experiences this year, and I just wanted to share some of those with you. So it is not all work. There has been a lot of fun, and there's been a lot of great memories, whether it's been through the work or the fun. Now I'd like to turn our attention to what ENA has accomplished over this last year. And I am very excited by all that we have accomplished. And while I will always have the honor of saying, well, I was president, and during my year we did this and we did that, I assure you that I cannot take all the credit for what ENA has accomplished this year. I have worked with so many of you that I believe these accomplishments are more a reflection of not what I have achieved, but rather of what we have achieved together and as a team. Some of the more significant accomplishments include our membership. Our membership has surged to over 35,000. I think it was 35,800 and some odd members is where we currently stand. And this is truly a direct result of all of your efforts. You are the best ambassadors for ENA, and without each of you, we would not be where we are today. So I do thank you. We have completed and disseminated the alcohol screening and brief intervention and referral treatment program. This is a free toolkit that's available to emergency departments to help you establish an alcohol screening program in your department. And that toolkit is available on our website if you would like to download it. We implemented our EN 411 program.